I'm doing this in the dark without my glasses on. Okay. Alright. I'm going to do something that's actually pretty beneficial for everybody. Okay? I use this term loosely on most people who have never been or encountered somebody with learning disabilities. Okay? So let's start one. I'm not feeling too hot, so don't mind me. Alright. Alright. Definition time for something that actually needs to be discussed. Alright. I was diagnosed with a learning disability when I was in kindergarten. Alright? So this is sort of lesson time for people who've never encountered us. Alright, a learning disability. A person with LD. We have 4 different terms for LD. Learning disability. Learning difficulty. Learning deficit. Learning differently. I fall on differently, okay? But we all use those terms interchangeably all the time. This is where the confusion gets to you. AO is average ordinary. A person who has never encountered a person with a learning disability. Or if they have, usually they don't realize that the teacher is using them to compare to the person with the learning problems. So most teachers, in fact, a AO has absolutely no idea that they're being pitted against another student because they're being compared. If, let's say, you have a kid with a learning disability or a difficulty in a class, they're 12 years old, and they're actually doing way better than, let's say, the kid sitting next to them that is an AO. The AO is getting a B. The person with LD is getting an A. What the teacher is not taking into account, and this is what really irked me all through my school years, is how a teacher views a person with a learning disability in special ed. Okay, 1, a special ed student is not stupid. 2, a special ed kid is not a problem child. 3, the special ed kid does need certain set of boundaries, restrictions, or learning accommodations in order to do a class. This is where I ended up with the teachers from hell. My math teacher in 3rd grade was the worst woman I had ever met in attitude. Granted, she was also my homeroom teacher. This woman, I don't even remember her name, thank God, did not understand that multiplication for me is a living nightmare. Because they never explained it properly to me. I was in a special ed room for almost every math class just to get away from this woman. And every time she brought this up to parent-teacher night, I was sitting there publicly humiliated in front of my parents. My mother was frustrated with this woman to all hell and back, and every teacher in this school was frustrated with this woman because I was not viewed as the problem child. I was being bullied all through that, but my other teachers had nothing but nice things to say about me. Now, my art teacher, this is where I'm going to tell you this right now. My art teacher absolutely said to me as a kid, if you have an issue with a teacher, let me know. I will talk to your parents about it. Now, when teachers advocate for other kids, most of the time, teachers that teach what was called the special classes or the specials, like art, music, gym, theater, are never listened to. Okay? This is why a lot of kids who are really good at art flounder in certain classes. Because sometimes those art teachers are never, like, they will bring up a problem and say, hey, this kid has this problem. Oh, no, they don't. What really happens is, and this is how an AO gets dragged into this mess. And usually I don't really like kids that are average ordinaries sometimes because they are bullies. But the average ordinaries who are really nice and have absolutely no clue that their grades are being compared to the kid who is learning, what the teacher calls a learning deficient kid. This is what happened between me and my friend Kirsten. And honestly, this is why I use her real name, because she's actually a very nice person, and she deserves the credit that she gives, because she actually did stand up for me. Kirsten saw what the teacher was doing was wrong. She went to her mother, and her mother called mine and told her what was going on. This gave my mother ammunition one day to show up to a parent-teacher conference with my homework that me and Kirsten did together. I watched a teacher sputter for 6 minutes. That is enough for Kirsten's mother to storm in and put this teacher on the spot. I was pulled, both me and Kirsten were pulled the next semester out of that class and put into a different one. Because both my mother and Kirsten's mother could not stand this woman. This is why, midway through my 3rd grade year, I had 2 3rd grade teachers. Because I was only supposed to deal with that teacher once, and that was math. After that, I was put in with a different teacher who actually gave 2 craps about me and was very pissed off. Mrs. Lewis, if you are watching this video, thank you. I do appreciate your insistence on dragging me out of that class. And Miss Torreson, my 2nd grade teacher, thank you very much as well. You two did a really smashing job with me. Now, this is where advocacy for a kid with a learning disability or difficulty or whatever becomes absolutely paramount. When you know that there is an upper admin to the school who cannot be trusted. I am talking about my senior year of high school, and this is a teacher I absolutely love, Mr. Bull. Mr. Bull, this is not his real name, I don't remember his real name, but Mr. Bull, I call him that because he was the most bull-headed, most wonderful man I've ever met. And my first day of economics, he did this for me. He was trained originally at a previous school to teach special ed students, but he specialized in economics. He had a major, and also he said himself he was learning disabled himself. So one day I came in, my very first day of his class, and on my desk, because he had selected a desk for me first, at the front of the classroom, front and center, next to his desk, like right in front of his desk, trust me, this was really, really funny. He asked me to sit there every class I could get there on time, I could do it. He put on the side, he would give me the textbook, but printed up was notes. And I would take notes from the textbook, compare notes with the notes he gave me. I got out of that class with a B. This man was awesome. He was also the guy who was the teacher for detention too. So he was also really cool to my sister. Who he told, if you ever do detention ever again, I'm not I will vouch that you did nothing wrong, because I had found out that my sister was at a photo shoot, and the school found out about it and gave her detention for it. Mr. Bull said that was not fair. That was on her time, not the school's time, and pulled strings to have her taken out of that. Thank you, Mr. Bull. You are a freaking awesome man. I appreciate everything you've ever done for me. And honestly, you explained things to me that I actually never understood before. But here is where a lot of people don't realize it. An AO, or an average ordinary, who has never had to set foot in a special ed room, much less a tutoring room, will not understand why a special ed kid, or a kid like me, who is not defined as a special ed kid, ever gets treated like dirt. Most teachers are not trained to understand it, and it is very dangerous and very sad, because many of these kids are actually told they will not make it to college. Hi, I made it to college, and yeah, I didn't graduate, but I made it. I made it my goal. And one of the people that I absolutely detested in high school was one of the administrators, and she tore me down so much that I really did not want to go back to any reunions. And even though she had found my email and emailed me, why aren't you coming to the 10-year reunion? Why aren't you coming to the 20-year reunion? And I posted a very nice, really quick, "Dear so-and-so, my job is very, very important to me. I work customer service as an advocate for, as actually an ambassador to my business. Not to mention that the event at question, even though I do have it off, I am actually working at this convention as a panelist. As in, I am also doing research on Japanese urban legends, Japanese mythology, and also, I'm really sorry to report this, but this does not work for my schedule. I am deeply sorry that I am offending you in this, but I would rather step into a fiery pit of hell before I ever set foot in that school again. Sorry. After that note, I received another email from her apologizing for bothering me and maybe getting the wrong email. No, she got the right email. She just didn't get the right person at the time. My email has since changed, and I shut down that email and have been a different one ever since. In fact, I have 3 separate emails that I use, and those are 3 separate things that I do. My email that's linked to this site, to this account, is used for my writing. My personal email is used for my work. And my third email is very ultra private. It is only between me and my friends. And that is for a writers group that I am part of. Again, this is why advocacy for special ed students is very necessary. What happened to me happened between 1986 to 1999. From those 13 years, actually technically, yeah, 13 years, because I had to repeat kindergarten because I kept moving. Oh boy. Every time, my first kindergarten class, which was in Norman, Oklahoma, my teachers were actually very good and picked up on it. And in fact, I had like 3 kindergarten teachers in that one, because they set it up in an old gymnasium and converted it into a kindergarten classroom with several sectional walls. The thing is, they set it up in such a way that one end of the class to the other had a teacher who was specially trained for that situation. It was set up in such a way that my mother could not believe how efficient it really was. I have memories of that. And they're very vague, but they're very positive. Because the teachers did not put any kid down. They didn't do anything different. When we moved to Evergreen, Colorado, my schooling went downhill because the teachers there... That school was so underfunded, I'm surprised it's still standing. And it was a historic landmark school. It was the first school in Evergreen to open up. So, yeah. What really happens, and this is why I tell people this, and this is why it is very, very serious and important to me. If you have a kid with special learning disabilities, do not allow special ed or the other classes to walk all over you, because you'll end up actually hurting yourself. You'll end up hurting the kid as well, because the teachers are only there to make sure to teach your kid, but they are not all trained to deal with the situation. This is why special ed classes are very different and specialized. When you have an IEP, and I absolutely hate IEPs, okay? Independent education programs do not always work for the people that are given to them. Because this is where my IEPs have failed me. 1, my IEP that was for science and math does not equate I need an IEP for English. Trust me, my English teacher was really shocked. And I mean, I watched this woman turn colors as she said, "There's nothing wrong with me." My history teacher said the same thing. This is when my 8th grade Mrs. Stout decided to have a conversation with my English teacher in 8th grade. This is where I get the funniest thing about my 8th grade teachers. Because even my chemistry teacher, Mr. Smith, also said that what applies for an IEP in my class does not apply for English or history. My history teacher advocated that the IEP be suspended for English and history. And also for social sciences. I don't know why. Those teachers are the reason my IEP all through high school for English, history, social sciences, government, and one other class were suspended. Oh, my fiance. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to close and say this is the reason why I usually tell people your IEP classes do not necessarily transfer to every single class, and this is why it failed for me. And yeah. Anyway, I gotta go. I'm still nauseous.